Hi. My name is Dave Cart-Howery. I am the chair of the Environmental Science and Policy Department, and we're going to tell you today a little bit about our program and hopefully answer some questions that you may have. So, if you guys wouldn't mind, if you could just type your who you are chat box just to make sure that's working, right there, and just say hi. If you want, let us know where you're from, and then we'll know a little bit more about you. And then, as I said, as we're talking, please just feel free to type in questions there, and we will answer them as either in type. Hi, Julian. Either we'll answer them in type, or else we'll tell you about the answer as we're going through. All right. So our goal at Drake Environmental Science and Policy is to immerse you in a multifaceted experience where you're going to be learning about science, policy, economics, ecology, and conservation in the classroom and in the field. But you're also going to hopefully get to know your professors. I shouldn't say hopefully, you're going to get to know your professors. You're going to engage in research, and some of that research is going to be published in scientific journals. We will give you opportunities to study in the rainforest, to burn prairies, control invasive species, and so on, including change the world. So here's kind of a brief description of the kind of things that we're looking at, that we're trying to do. We want you to be doing extensive field work. We want you to be thinking about focusing on learning how to do things, learning how to work in the field, learning how to process information, much more how to think about information than what information you have. So we're focused on doing. We want to help you understand the connections between us and the environment. That's where environmental science, for example, differs from, say, biology, is that it's about the interface between people and their environment. We want to engage you in the crossroads between the science, the natural sciences, and social policies, and then develop the skills in things like decision making, policy formulation, adaptive management, and so on. So we have essentially three majors. It's really two majors and two tracks, and I'm just going to really briefly mention them here, and we can, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. So the first one is part of the environmental science curriculum, and it's what we call our conservation biology track. And there we have a set of core courses. Those are things like Intro to Environmental Science, GIS, environmental sociology, geology, and some other courses that we feel everybody in our program needs to take. Then there's going to be a cluster of life science classes. Those are going to give you some more depth in your biology. So that's going to be like ecology, advanced ecology, some of those kind of things. There's a section in data analysis, and then some field electives. So you need to spend at least, you need to have at least 2 courses that are devoted to field science, although many of the ones, for example, in the life science cluster and in the other places, you'll be spending your time in the field. And then our students all also take science and policy integration, and then to get the Bachelor of Science, we require you to do some research. You can get a Bachelor of Arts in environmental science if you don't do research, but certainly our goal is to get as many of our students as possible actually doing active research, presenting that research, ideally publishing that research, and so on. And then you also have to do a senior capstone, which we'll talk about later. The hydrology, geology, more physical science focus is the other track in environmental science. And so there you're going to do the core, but instead of some of those that life science cluster, you're going to do more physical science. So it's going to be more like hydrology, chemistry, some of those kind of classes. There's going to be there's a quantitative chemical section where you'll be taking some advanced math, like instrumental chemistry, that kind of thing. And then we want you to specialize, whether that's in water quality, whether that's in geology, or some other aspect, modeling. But we want you to take some classes that are going to help you to specialize and to get a job in that area. Then you're also taking science and policy integration classes. We feel that it doesn't really make sense in environmental science to try to do science without understanding the policy context. So we want our graduates who are focused on science and who want to go into science, we want them to understand and to be thinking actively about how policy is informed by and informs the science that you're working on. And then again, for the BS, you do the research thesis and the presentation and the capstone course. We have a new major this semester or this coming year, and it's sustainability and resilience. We've made we used to have, you might have seen when you were looking initially, we used to have an environmental policy major. We feel that the sustainability and resilience major maybe better serves our students and helps to clearly sort of demonstrate what kinds of things we want you to be doing, where you're going to be going, and so on. So it's more of a focus on sustainability in general and less of a focus on sort of government policy. We find we have a lot of students, for example, going into urban and regional planning, into sustainability management and those kind of things. And so anyway, so that's where that change came from. So in that one, you're going to take, again, the core courses. We're going to have you take some intro economics. And then we have 4 areas where that are related to specific outcomes that we think everybody who works in the sustainability and resilience field, that they should be things they should be working on. So things like choice analysis, systems thinking, stakeholder engagement, and professional skills. You're going to take a couple classes in each of those areas to give you the skills you need to be a sustainability professional. Anyway, and then there's also a sustainability and resilience course that kind of tries to draw all those things together, and we'll give you an opportunity to do things like work on a carbon footprint for Drake. So every year we're going to be putting together a carbon footprint. That's certainly something that a lot of people who go into environmental consulting, and sustainability, that they'll work on carbon footprinting. We'll also do a sustainability assessment of a particular building or area like food service. So every year we'll be trying to find ways to make Drake a more sustainable place at the same time as we're giving you the skills to assess what that means. And then there's also Capstone there. All right, so that's a really brief, or maybe not as brief, but it's a relatively brief explanation of what our curriculum looks like. So let me quickly introduce ourselves, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Dave Crowd-Howery. I'm the chair, like I said. I'll teach your classes like Intro to Environmental Science, Climate Change, Environmental Modeling, Ecological Economics. I straddle the fence between science and policy. My research tends to be in ecological economics and agent-based modeling, that sort of thing.
It's definitely new.
Hi, my name is Peter Levi. I am a new faculty. Oh, I have it on, don't I? Oh, Dave. So I'm a new faculty here at Drake. I started this year. My emphasis is on hydrology and stream ecology. And so that's, of course, high interest here in the Midwest. Julian, if you're in St. Louis, you probably experienced some of the terrible flooding, or at least you might have heard about it in your area. Just a month ago, some of the worst flooding in January in the history of the Midwest. So it's a really dynamic field, and there's a lot going on. Yeah, I bet it was rough. Hopefully you survived it, and all your friends and family did too. Obviously, Eric in Omaha and Aspen in Kansas City, there's a lot of water issues here with those other urban centers as well. Some of my research deals with urban ecology as well, so integrating how human land use affects our water systems, both from an ecological standpoint as well as from a policy standpoint, a sustainability standpoint. And so I lead the hydrology and physical sciences track.
Hi there, I'm Michael Renner. I'm a faculty member in environmental science, but I'm also in biology and psychology. Most of my courses are cross-listed because I teach courses in primatology and animal behavior. We have a new concentration in zoo science and conservation. What I'm really interested in is the interaction between organisms and their environment. So I look at how animals learn new things from the world, how they solve problems that come to them. I'm working on a research project in Rwanda at this point, looking at how animals in reserve areas come out of the reserve areas and steal agricultural crops from farmers, and the kind of tensions that causes between the efforts for conservation and the local populations and what we can do about that. So I'm interested in all things animal related, but specifically animal behavior and its interface with human behavior.
All right, so Keith Somerville is not with us today. He is the interim dean so he's acting as dean of the College of Arts and Sciences this year. He'll be back with us full time next year. He is our ecologist, or our our terrestrial ecologist, right? Exactly. He does restoration. The classes he teaches are going to be things like restoration ecology, conservation biology, those sorts of things. He also does, or his research is in restoration of degraded landscapes, looking for ways to identify species in local environments and so on. Let's talk a little bit about some field classes that you'll be taking here if you're in one of the science fields. You obviously have the opportunity to take them if you are in the sustainability and resilience also. They're just not required. All right, one of the classes I just said they're not required, but one of the classes that is required is the Capstone. And the senior Capstone, what we try to do then is take projects that will really matter, rather than have you write a report that's going to go on somebody's shelf after you get a grade. But we get external stakeholders, so people who have important questions, they're working on some project, or they need some research done in the area, and they come to us and we help design capstone experiences out of that. So we each year we probably have about 4 to 5 projects, students work in groups of 3 to 4 on a capstone project, and so the kinds of things that we do in capstone, one of them, the picture that you're seeing here, is tree planting at the Sprout Garden. So some students had for a long time been interested in getting a public garden, getting garden space at Drake. Students in our senior capstone wrote a $45,000 grant, and it was successful. We thought that was really nice, a really nice experience, because not too many people come out of college with grant writing experience. It's something that's pretty critical in a lot of fields, and so gave them an opportunity to see how that process went, to see how you design a grant, but then also gave us the opportunity to put in a pretty nice garden. And so here what we're doing, we work with the Boys and Girls Club of Central Iowa. That's the folks you see here, planting some of the fruit trees that are going in the garden. It's a permaculture type garden. So we have annual crops, we have perennial things like berries and stuff. We have fruit trees, and it's been the trees are going to be about 4 years when you guys get here. So hopefully we'll have our first good crop of fruits. All right, so excuse me. Here we have some students in our intro lab class. So they're out doing some introductory sampling. They're looking at various benthic invertebrates, so little bugs that crawl along the bottoms of the streams, and trying to figure out what they mean about stream water quality. This is out. There's a area that Drake has a lot of we have a lot of connections with the Chautauqua Bottoms Greenbelt. It's a really neat project trying to figure out how to do conservation in formerly disturbed areas. And so here we have students out there doing some field entomology, looking for insects and so on. This is Professor Somerville. He's teaching students techniques in how to catch and band birds and identify them and use that for research. Let's see. We also just like we have a connection with the Chautauqua Bottoms, we also have a field station out in Runnels, Iowa, which is about 20 minutes away. And so there's a station there where we have computers and a lot of field equipment. And then there's a stream nearby. It's got a bunch of restored prairies and so on. And so we do some research out there. A lot of that's in conjunction with the Southeast Polk High School, so and middle school, and so we have a lot of interactions with them where we have some of our students, teaching, doing some environmental education. We got some students here, people doing some controlled burns. For the picture, they're all looking the wrong way, but we do teach you to look at the fire when you're burning things. But and then you'll have opportunities to study small mammals. We have some folks here doing some setting out some specimen collection and using some nets to do some sampling. Peter, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the hydrology opportunities or classes?
Classes.
Okay, yeah. So I think one thing that all these photographs should demonstrate is that one of our main goals is to get you out in the field right away, getting this hands-on experience in research. When you start looking for jobs or looking for graduate school programs after you finish here at Drake, being able to specifically state what practices you're proficient in and what you've done and the experiences you've had is a really big plus because employers and graduate school advisors are going to be looking that you have that tangible experience. And what's great about Drake is that we have the small class sizes that get you out into the field just doing research like these photographs have shown, even just in your classes. And so what we're starting up now is some more courses in hydrology, given my expertise. And so we'll be working in a lot of the streams and rivers here around Des Moines. It's a really great opportunity. Again, the ethos of the entire program is to see how humans interact with natural ecosystems. And as we're all from the agricultural Midwest here, the courses are going to get us out into these ecosystems like that Chautauqua Bottoms picture showed. There's a cornfield right next to this beautiful prairie restoration. So we talk about the interface of that and how is this natural ecosystem now different because of the native plantings, but how might it still be influenced by the human activity nearby? And streams, in my mind, are really fantastic to study because they integrate everything that happens on the landscape. And then you can look at different river network systems. So you start in small headwaters. Here you can see in this image, it's a much wider stream, bigger than a little tributary, and then that ultimately flows to a bigger river. So we're applying these really theoretical ideas like scale in ecology with really practical things like going from a tributary headwater to a middle order stream to a large river, and all along the way seeing how different patterns and processes both stay the same but also change and what causes those changes.
So GIS is a skill that we want all our students to have. We have you take GIS through the advanced level, and it's a mapping skill that lets you, or I should say, a spatial data visualization tool. It helps you to excuse me, helps you to relate various important features in the landscape, and things like how might you expect a pollution plume to move in the landscape, or where might you expect to find important species and things like that. And we find that it's in pretty high demand for students both looking for summer jobs and also careers.
Well, that means it's me. We have a new partnership with one of the only two places in the country where you can do research on bonobos. The Ape Cognition and Conservation Initiative has a laboratory here in southeast Des Moines. There are 5 bonobos there, including Kanzi, who is the most famous, probably, bonobo in existence. He actually understands about 3,000 words of spoken English. You can speak full sentences to him, and he knows exactly what you're saying. We've got multiple research projects going there. Students start out in a practicum experience where they sort of learn how the place works, and they do some of the basic animal husbandry kinds of activities, and that gets you into the routines. It gets you to learn what the rules are and how to be safe there. And then students who stay longer than that are actively involved in research projects that we are doing, as well as research that it's being done by faculty members from universities all over the country, because, as I said, this is only one of 2 places that has bonobos available for research. So we're very excited about this because it's turned into quite a wonderful opportunity for students that undergraduates just don't get anywhere else in the country. In addition to that, we have a course in zoo biology where you learn how zoos work and what role they play in conservation. And as part of that, the animals in zoos actually are trained these days to be an active part of their own maintenance and their own husbandry. They will learn to show you their various body parts and open their mouth, and it looks like tricks, but in fact what's going on is they're giving the animals some control over the environment, and they're letting be an active participant in being healthy and taking care of themselves. So this is Bonnie Van Ellen. She's the lead keeper for the carnivores at the Blank Park Zoo, which is a fully accredited zoo here in Des Moines. And that's Deuce, who is 5 now. He's the male lion. I have one of Deuce's claws on my desk because I got a little close to the cage one day and he didn't like it very much and took a swipe. So when you stop by my office on a campus visit, just ask me and I'll show you Deuce's claw. It's a wonderful opportunity for students to be behind the scenes. We learn about zoo management and finances and what the various international treaties are that regulate the trade in endangered species. And the projects that we do as part of that class are an active part of managing the zoo. The zookeepers give us ideas of questions that they'd like to see answered, and we then try to find ways to get data that will be useful to them as a part of learning how to do this kind of research in this sort of an environment. So in addition to interacting with the lions, you'll probably get to meet Barnaby, who is a rock star. Barnaby is 500 pounds of fun. He's about 110 years old, as nearly as we can figure. He's an Aldabra tortoise. He was the first animal at the Des Moines Zoo when it opened in the 1960s, and he was already in his 50s at that point. And he is very well trained. That's 2 of our students who are helping him get used to being handled, but the woman on the right that is partly blocked is actually doing a physical exam on him at this point. So he's got his mouth open and is letting her look inside and check his eyes and various things like that. They are active participants in their own well-being. We are training the 2 young rhinoceroses at the zoo to be participants in their own care as well. And part of that is they have to be handled. They have to have people touching them, and the zoo biology students get to be part of that. And every student who gets to do this has that same look on their face. I can't believe I'm touching a rhinoceros. And to be honest, I do this all the time. I still get that look on my face. It's an extremely cool experience. They're actually very sweet animals. They get aggressive if they're startled, and they're pretty nearsighted, so it's easy to startle them. So we use a protected contact model. Those steel bars will stop a truck. They certainly would stop a rhinoceros, but they've never had to. These animals are actually very gentle and very used to being around people. And there are occasional fun moments in this class and in the research we do at the zoo. This is the point at which the student you're seeing in this picture discovered that it was not one-way glass and that the tiger could see him just as well as he could see her. And there was a full 30 seconds where he sat there very still and came away with a real appreciation for just how intense a tiger's stare can be. It's a wonderful opportunity to work with lots of different species, to learn about conservation in captive situations, to learn the role that zoos play in both conservation and in education about conservation for the public at large. One of the things that is an important signature of our program is that we want you to get your hands dirty. I mean, we want you to be out of the classroom, in the field, doing real stuff as quickly as possible. And so I'll turn over to Dave, I think, to talk a little bit about some of the research opportunities.
Or me. So, as I said earlier, I'm in charge of the physical sciences and the hydrology track, so I have to compete. Oh, it's on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great. So I was just saying that as the physical scientist and hydrologist here, I have to compete with bonobos and lions at the Blank Park Zoo. So I make hydrology just as exciting as going to a zoo and working with those amazing animals. And so what we've just covered is everything that you would do as a student here just in your classes. So we get you outside, we get you doing controlled burns, we get you sampling. These are things you'll do from your very first class, which is One Earth with Dave, and then in the spring, as first years, you would take Principles of Geology with me, and we're going to be out there in the field too, learning about basic hydrology and geology. So right away from day one, you're in the field, and that's just within classes. So another major component of our program and a hallmark of it is that we also encourage you and give you opportunities to do independent research. This, again, all those tools that you learn during the classes are really great for your resume and your CV when you look for jobs after Drake at federal agencies or nonprofits or in the private sector, or if you're thinking of grad school as well. But the opportunity to do research as well could really set you apart, and we'll give you that opportunity here through hands-on work with us as faculty. So this image here just shows some students working on a restoration project. The Neil Smith National Wildlife Refuge is only about 30 minutes from campus. There's actually a herd of bison there, and so they're doing a lot of prairie restoration and looking at how these large mammals affect the prairie, but also how the prairie affects the bison population. So the full picture of ecology there. Dr. Somerville, who couldn't be here with us today, he focuses a lot on organismal research throughout Iowa. So here's a picture of some of that research he was doing at the Environmental Learning Center. So marking and recapturing turtles. There's also more than just turtles out there. Here's a shot of a trail camera. Dr. Somerville has trail cameras all over central Iowa, and so part of his research on the animals here is to track their movements and see how the populations are doing. And then this too shows that they actually installed some herbaculums as part of a prairie restoration project to try to get snakes, the population of snakes to rebound. And so here, of course, they're not actually going in to check for snakes in the den. They're using some technology and some tools to investigate that. And so as a student here, you have opportunity to do research not only during the school year, but also during the summers. And so one thing that you'd have the opportunity to do is work with Dr. Somerville or myself, or possibly at the Blank Park Zoo, and stay here over the summer and do an independent research project. One of the main goals in that, as Dave mentioned earlier, is that you get the opportunity to publish and present some research, which puts you in a whole separate class when you start applying to graduate schools, because advisors really look to see if you've done research and if you've done the work and if you know what graduate school would be like. Also, if you're thinking of going straight into the workforce, that also sets you apart as a really unique experience, because oftentimes at the bigger schools, as you can imagine, if there's classes with 500 students, there's just no way that those students have the same opportunities to be in the field and using this equipment and getting this experience as you would have here at Drake. So that's the research opportunities at the campus, in addition to the coursework.
There are also opportunities to be involved in research in other places. That is Rohira, up in a tree in the mountains of Rwanda. For the last 5 years, I've been doing research in the Gishwati Forest area, which is now becoming a national park. They actually just passed the law within the last few months to turn it from a reserved area into a national park. And there are a number of different projects going there. And every year so far that I've been there, I've been able to take students with me. So over the last 5 years, we've been studying different methods of reforestation in in the areas of the forest reserve that actually had been deforested after the 1994 genocide. They're being allowed to grow back naturally, but trying to figure out ways that we can accelerate the growth of the food crops that the animals use in the reserve. So here are two of our students, both have since gone on to graduate school, who are looking for the fig tree seedlings that were, or actually cuttings that were planted the year before. When we find them, then we take various botanical measurements to capture the data about the vitality. You know, how many leaves, how tall is it, how big are the stems around. Just basic data in, are these trees growing? Because we're trying to find inexpensive and quick ways to propagate the kinds of plants that we know have to be there for the animals to use the reserve. One of the nice things about this research experience is it's also a kind of a cultural immersion experience. The research site that I just showed you actually is about an hour's walk in from the nearest road. It's a very isolated area of Rwanda, and the place that you park, the nearest place that the road goes, is actually one of the regional schools. And it is so infrequent that they see Westerners in this part of Rwanda that they typically let the kids out of class to come meet you when you walk by. And so you're the best show in town for a while, and it's always hilarious and loud and funny. And the students who've had that experience all thought it was pretty amazing to be the center of attention, just because you were a new person and they didn't necessarily see that very often. That area that you see behind me in that picture with the two students, it's got 1,000 feet vertical from top to bottom. From the top of the hill that you see down to the bottom of that little valley is 1,000 feet elevation difference because it's a volcanic area. And we were measuring various characteristics of the landscape so that we could draw computer-generated maps and try to build a model that would explain why the chimpanzees would come out of the forest at this point and raid the crops. That model was very successful, and in fact, we were able to predict where crop raiding would occur and where it wouldn't successfully enough that the Rwandan government asked us to come back and map the whole reserve. So we spent the summer of 2014 walking the boundary of the whole reserve area and taking GPS points essentially so we could draw computer-generated maps. And we've had really good success at reducing the amount of crop raiding that goes on in that area. So we've now just been invited to participate in the next stage of development for this national park, which is to develop a land corridor that will connect a piece of forest with a second piece of forest that's several miles away into a single national park. And it's something we're very excited about. Let me scroll here. There we go. We also are big believers in study abroad. We think that every student who comes out of our program, whether they work in the Midwest for the rest of their life or whether they have a different kind of a career than that, is going to work in an international context. You will deal with people who come from cultures you're not familiar with, who grew up somewhere you're not familiar with, and you have to have the skills to deal with that. And so we encourage our students very strongly to get involved in any abroad experiences. I'll just tell you about a couple of them, then I'll hand it back. This is a picture that one of our students had taken of her when she was visiting a big cat orphanage in South Africa, where she studied abroad last year. But I want to tell you about the School for Field Studies, which is an organization that we are affiliated with. They have sites at 8 places around the world where they are doing environmental research that is connected to the social problems of the area. And they are equipped in these places to take groups of 15 to 20 students for a semester at a time. So you go there and spend a semester. You get full semesters worth of credits in terms of courses in the ecology of the area, in the culture and language of the area. We know what to do with this because we're essentially associated with this organization. And because of our affiliation, part of your Drake financial aid needs to be used to pay the program fees for that semester. And so we're having more and more students who are participating in School for Field Studies programs, and they're coming back just extremely excited about this. Another way that we encourage study abroad is with January term courses. And for students who don't feel like they can go abroad for an entire semester, Drake rearranged its academic calendar a few years ago to leave a 3-week space between the fall and spring, where we have courses that last for 3 weeks that we call our January term. And many of those courses are travel-based, where you will be taking a course that is part of your curriculum here, but a large part of what you do in that course is done somewhere other than in central Iowa in January, which is kind of attractive. I'll talk about one course, and then I'm going to let Dr. Kurohari tell you about a couple of others. Because I work in Rwanda, I've set up a January term course that we taught for the first time this year. on the development of the ecotourism industry in Rwanda. Rwanda is inside that red box you see on the map. It's in Central Africa. It's just about a degree south of the equator, and off toward the eastern side a bit, but it is true equatorial Africa. And what's interesting about it is that since the genocide in 1994, the government figured out that ecotourism was one of their best sources of currency. And so they have been very protective of the environment. About 10% of the entire country is in reserve areas. And they've developed a set of 4 national parks that all run according to different business models. They're all part of the Integrated National Conservation Plan. And they are part of the economy of the country in a very important way that's very visible. And so students in this class meet with the head rangers of the national parks. We met with the head of the Rwandan Conservation Bureau because of the connections I've been able to develop there doing research in the last several years. And you go see places like Akagera National Park, which is the savanna park of the country. If you've seen the movie Lion King, you've kind of seen what it's like. It is grasslands, mixed trees and grasslands, a low mountain range. You will see leopards and zebra and various kinds of antelope and elephants and crocodiles and hippopotamuses. It's a really kind of an extraordinary place. There's a service learning component to the course. This is the students who went this last January. We just got back about 3 weeks ago. And as part of their service in this course, they gathered donations of children's books and textbooks and soccer gear, because that's an international game, and took over 150 books and enough soccer gear to equip about 8 teams, which are now out in the schools and the ecology clubs of the region around Gishwati Forest where I work. And it's a tremendous service, because these are very, very poor people, and they treat this as a huge gift when it comes, and then they make good use of it and take good care of it. In addition, the last stage of the trip is a visit to Volcanoes National Park, which is the one place that you can see mountain gorillas. And the students got to spend a day hiking up into the Volcanoes National Park and spending some time with a family of mountain gorillas, which was very much a highlight of their January. It's a wonderful experience, and the Volcanoes National Park is one of the better run single-purpose national parks in the world. Dave?
Sorry, I'm entirely unable to remember to turn my mic on, apparently. Yeah, so I do 2 international seminars. The first one is to Quito and the Galapagos, so Quito, Ecuador. Here we are hiking a 16,000-foot peak up outside, just outside of Quito. Oops, sorry. We are in the Galapagos, so we spend about half the time in Quito and half the time in the Galapagos. We do, as like with Dr. Renner's seminar, we do some service learning. Here we're clearing invasive guava from a Meconia forest. Meconia is a species that's endemic to only the Galapagos. And here we are resting after a busy day of swinging machetes. Oh, and baby sea lions. I can't avoid that. The other seminar is in Belize. We just got back from that this January. And so Belize is it's a little closer than Ecuador and the Galapagos. So it's pretty easy to get to. Right, that's where we do our work. Some of it, at least. We do most of our work down in the southern part of Belize, which is the poorest region, and there is we work with a group that is, or with an organization that's overseeing some debt for nature land down there. So they have a large terrestrial land holding, and then they're also oversee the marine reserve, and so we have an opportunity to go learn how they're protecting marine animals and so on, and also we get to ride around on boats. Here we are learning about some agroforestry, so some really neat things going on with sustainable forestry in the country. We didn't get to see tapirs, but at least we saw some tapir crossings. So essentially, just to kind of wrap things up and then get to your questions if you have them. We really try to offer a hands-on education. Hopefully that was clear. You're going to be understanding, or we're working to help you understand the connections, right, between people and the earth, to engage at the crossroads, at the intersection between social and natural sciences, and really to become able to participate and lead decision-making, policy formulation, and implementation, science, and management over environmental issues. So our goal is to really get you from day one doing the work that you're going to be doing, and we want to train you that way rather than sitting in on a whiteboard explaining what you could be doing. We would like to definitely hear from you. So one of the reasons why we think Drake is a special place is that you do get a really strong opportunity to interact with your professors and to learn one-on-one, to have conversations about both your academics, but also where you're going in life and what your goals are and how we can get you there and so on. So we want to demonstrate that to you. So please feel free to email us. I know that people often are uncomfortable emailing professors at schools where they're applying. We would love to talk to you. So please let us know what you're interested in. Let us know what you're wondering about. And the best way to have those conversations is if you come visit. So please, if you visit, do ask to set up a meeting with one of us. And we will be glad to get into much more detail about the kinds of things that you're interested in. So yes.
What questions do you guys have? I know Eric and Aspen. We heard a little bit about what Julian was doing. Although Julian, I don't mean to make you stop. You keep typing. But Eric and Aspen, if you guys have any questions or what are you all interested in? And if you don't feel like typing aren't there, that's fine as well.
Sophia, we had a late.
Oh, Sophia, I didn't see you come in. Where are you? Well, where are you coming from?
Buffalo Grove.
Okay, great. Well, welcome.
I would echo what Dave just mentioned too. That our point of doing everything we do here is the students and you in particular. And so in my intro geology class right now, there's 38 students, and I knew all their names by the second meeting period. So it's on the one hand, you can't hide, but on the other hand, we get to know you and you get to know us. And so I think that's one of the big advantages of being here at Drake, as Dave and hopefully this presentation has demonstrated. So now we get some questions.
Right, so Eric is asking, are student athletes able to study abroad? Well, that depends a little bit on the program. So certainly, we had some student athletes on our J-term program. But I know there are a couple, I don't think football players, I think they're working over January. I think basketball players are working over January. So there may be that you probably want to talk to your coach. Certainly some of the summer opportunities are available. Again, it depends on what program you're in. But we certainly have a lot of student athletes in the environmental science and policy program, and I know that some of them were with me in Leeds. Do you guys have other?
I'll add a little something to that. The trip to Rwanda, I actually had a football player and one of the women's varsity soccer players along on the trip. And I asked both about it because I have a son who's beginning to look at college now as an athlete, and they both said that it was not difficult to arrange that. I think they both felt like it would be more difficult to arrange a full semester, but the January one is something that's pretty manageable. Probably frankly unless you're a basketball player because that's peak season for them. But then there would be summer opportunities you could take advantage of. So I don't know if anybody yet has been unable to find an international experience that was suitable, but you do have to work around the particular schedule of your sport.
So Aspen.
Oh yeah,
he's on one.
Yeah.
So Aspen, you're asking about what kinds of jobs are people working in after the program, and that depends a lot on what they study. So we, one thing I like to do with students on visit is we just bring up the alumni Facebook webpage, and we can answer that just by kind of scrolling down and looking at random folks and seeing what kinds of things they're doing. Certainly for the environmental sciences, we have a lot of people who are working in areas like for the state governments, in DNR, so Departments of Natural Resources, those kind of things. We have a lot of people doing ecology, doing restoration work in place of restoration management, so overseeing restoration projects, those kind of things. Sometimes with Nature Conservancy, or groups like that. We have a number of people from all our majors working in advocacy, so learn about environmental science policy here, and then a lot of people want to go and make change through the legal system, through the political system. So we have a lot of people working on for organizations to do those sorts of things. Environmental consulting is something that a lot of our students do. So that's essentially there are a lot of environmental jobs like putting together some of the paperwork that's required by the government. So getting those reports together. A lot of companies don't have they don't have a large enough staff to have someone in the environmental field on staff, and so what they do is they hire an environmental consulting firm to do things, to do some of those kind of jobs, or else do jobs like doing water sampling, looking for underground storage tanks, and a bunch of other things like that. So we have students doing environmental consulting, some students working in international development. Certainly, a lot of our students go on to get advanced degrees, and so there we have a number of professors and folks that are doing research and that kind of thing. Peter, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, and I would just say too, Aspen, is that what's a huge plus and bonus about being here at Drake is that Des Moines is the capital of Iowa. There is no big state school here, so we are able to bring in people who work for senators. We're able to bring in people who are at the top of Iowa DNR. We're able to bring in people who are lobbyists. And so part of your education, not only are we taking you to all these places and getting you outside a lot, maybe some of you don't want to be outside and you want to do this more for the policy and the resilience and sustainability, but we get you as much opportunity and as much interaction with professionals in their fields, such that you might not even know of a field, but then you meet someone who does it. For instance, I'm having coffee on Friday with one of the main lobbyists for the Iowa League of Cities and 2 students in one of my classes just at a local coffee shop. So we try to facilitate these interactions not only through the coursework and being in the classroom, but also by directly engaging with people here in capital city of Iowa. And there's just a lot of great opportunities because we're not in the shadow of a big state school in Des Moines.
And just one more point along those lines is that, as I think Peter was saying, we have, you think of the capital as being the place where the government is, but it's also the place where all the advocacy organizations and a lot of the people who work with the government are. And so, we have a lot of students, not just to work with, or we have a lot of people not just that don't just come to Drake, but also we have students who do internships with much of the environmental organizations, summer jobs, and those kind of things. Also, for the sustainability and resilience folks, we do a lot. There's a lot that go into, or that we able to go into things like environmental consulting and advocacy work, but also things like sustainability management. So working on in an organization, being the person who helps to help ways to both save money and to save resources and to improve environmental outcomes within an organization. That's becoming a more and more in demand field. We have a number of people, like I said before, that are working in urban and regional planning and those sorts of things.
And through our coursework here with, you will take field courses. And so if you go into urban planning, for instance, you'll have a background in ecological research. And so that might be directly translatable to your work, but just knowing the principles that go into that definitely make you a stronger urban and regional planner. So it all overlaps.
And yeah, Aspen, we definitely have a lot of students who double major in various programs. So we have some business and environmental students, and you can imagine that can be a really nice combination. Because there's a lot of people working in green business. There are a lot of businesses that are looking to green both their practices and sometimes, unfortunately, just their image. But hopefully, none of our students do that. But yeah, we have a lot of students who are going into green business by double majoring. We have students who are double majoring. Also, in things like marketing and environmental science can be a big deal. Journalism and environmental science. There's a lot of environmental journalism. We have folks in, I'm just trying to think of some other kind of popular.
Radio and television.
Yeah, there's radio and television. Here we definitely have a lot of students who double major in things like bio and chemistry and environmental science as well. But definitely we try to keep our majors such that you can double major if you want to. And it's a common thing.
And I would just add to that briefly too, if there is a course that you don't see listed, but you're really interested in that subject, we can make a seminar type course during your junior or senior years that's more specialized and more focused. So we definitely want to hit on the topics that are of interest to you. And it's really fun for us because then we get a little bit out of our comfort zones and we teach a class that might not be one that we have expertise in, and we kind of learn together, and then that shows up on your transcript that you took a course that might be more specific to your interests.
So
Sophie is asking whether students have gone to urban planning field, and
yes,
if you're interested, I can put you in touch with we have 4 students right now who are working as urban and regional planners. We expect that to increase as we build this sustainability and resilience major. That's one of the reasons we kind of changed away from a sort of policy focus where you get what you need to go into urban and regional planning, but it wasn't sort of directed as one of the major outcomes. But certainly with the sustainability and resilience major, our thinking is that may be something that a lot of students are interested in. And that would be the field of study if you're interested really in focusing on the human side of environmental issues. So questions of green energy, questions of how do we think about reducing our footprint, how do we think about how do we think about putting together systems that are going to take care of the water that runs off campus or off of buildings and things like that. Like how do we live more in harmony with the world around us? I think that's one of the major goals of the sustainability and resilience major. Are there any other questions? If not, when I see people start typing, I'll just go, oh yeah, great. Sophia has another question. Yeah, it actually there's a little sign that tells us it's typing, so we won't cut things off if we see somebody's working. All right, so you certainly can. This video will be online. We can get you the link to it if you want to. You can view the video afterwards. I know Sophia came in a little later, so you can see some of the early stuff. So let's see. Is there access in regards to local government in Des Moines to work directly with the government on environmental issues? Absolutely. We work pretty closely with the government of Des Moines. I'm on the Des Moines Planning and Zoning Commission. So we do a lot of that kind of work. We have a lot of interactions with the mayor here. Des Moines is a neat-sized city. It's about 400,000 people, which is big enough, I think, to feel like an important city, especially we just got out of the caucus season is crazy. But certainly it's a big enough size that it feels like a lot of the things we're doing are pretty important. But it's also small enough that it's not hard to get to know the mayor and to get to know the folks on city council and stuff. So yeah, we some of the internship opportunities are with, say, the Department of Economic Development. The mayor he's actually a very environmentally interested mayor. That's kind of one of his big things. That he chairs the mayor's group on the international climate talks. So he's really very interested in environmental issues, and so he sometimes hires great students to work in that office as well. So yeah, there'll definitely be opportunities to work with people at the real local level, which can be sometimes the most rewarding because you can see your ideas come to fruition really quickly. Certainly, some of the capstones are at the local level. So one thing we did last year was we have one of the top 3 art fairs in the country here at art festivals here in Des Moines. And so we got together with that group to try to come up with ways to make that a zero-emission art festival. So no carbon emissions, no net carbon emissions, no net trash. I shouldn't say no net trash. Trash was supposed to be entirely recycled, reused, or composted. So our students got together with that group and came up with a plan to make that happen. The good thing about that is that all the different festival organizations, they all work together. They're all using a lot of the same infrastructure. So now that we've worked to green the art festival, the other major festivals, like we have a big music festival, Lady 35, we get a lot of good bands here in Des Moines. That's also impacted. A lot of our other smaller festivals are impacted by the work that those students did. So that's kind of we do a lot of that sort of thing, but that's sort of an example of one of the projects. So let's see. Julian visited Drake earlier in the winter, so didn't really get to explore the city as much as you'd like, but saw Des Moines. Yeah, I think Des Moines is a neat city. I've been here for about 15 years, and I have to say it's a lot better than it was when I got here. But actually, it's gotten to be quite a fun city. There's a lot to do downtown. And one neat thing about that is that we have free bus passes, so you can just hop on a bus just right across the street from campus. You can get on a bus. Takes you downtown 5 minutes, and there's lots of really neat place to eat, neat place to go listen to music and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm actually when I came here, I thought that I was coming here in spite of Des Moines, and now I'm pretty excited about just being in Des Moines. Of course, I'm 47, but there's good stuff for you guys too. So let's see. I just didn't want to miss something. Okay, great. It looked like Sophia was typing something. Okay, so Sophia, we'll send you a link to, or Evan Favreau here will send you a link to the rest of the talk, so you can check that out tomorrow if you like, or sometime if you like. And then please, any questions you have, just shoot us an email, and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible.
They should be able to go back into prep pod and watch.
Okay, so I guess you can go to you can go into Prep Talk, so the same place where you are now, and it should be available there as well. We'll get you a link, but it may be that that's the easiest way to get to it. Yeah. So it looked like maybe Aspen had something, but it's not showing up yet. And also, by the way, if you've had your questions answered, don't feel like you have to stick around. We won't feel it's rude if you you got to take off to go do other things. Okay, great. Well then, please, like I said many times, just please do get in touch with us. Please do come visit. We'd love to talk. And I know you guys have a really tough decision. Hopefully, you have lots of really great opportunities. So whatever happens, good luck making those choices. It's definitely a fun, if stressful, time. So I'm envious. All right. And with that, we'll see you guys later.